We are back for another edition of the Stokastic.com strategy show. This time we are talking UFC 279. We are sponsored by Prize Picks. Going to talk about some of those props I like over at Prize Picks later on in the show, as I've already got 4 that I like over there. Plus, they got a free square, so I'm feeling pretty good over at Prize Picks coming up this week. Of course, as always, I am joined by the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr. Great to have you back, Pete. You nice and relaxed after taking last week off?
A little bit. Obviously, I was still missing being a part of the shows, of course, but you guys handled it perfectly as expected. And, you definitely have a team that brings a different perspective to it. And I like hearing, what they have to say as well. Greg's great. Josh is great. You're okay. And, here we are.
I'm okay. Jeez, here we are. You are just start off the daggers. Well, you know what? I'm not coming here on Saturday then. Oh yeah, I wasn't coming here anyway.
Okay.
I will be in an airplane as you and Josh do a show there. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the show last week, if you're not checking out Josh's The Process show, he talks about what contests to play, and he goes to MMA. And one of my favorite contests to play in MMA is that 20 max. It's just one of my go-to contests over there. I mean, I know we're all chasing that big GPP, but if you're looking to get a little bit less in the field, those 20 max are ones I'd love to get to.
Yeah, for sure. I love the show, and it definitely opens your eyes of what contests to avoid and how to, try to be as profitable as possible.
Yeah, of course. If you got any questions for us here on this edition of Strategy Show, hit those up there in the YouTube chat. We'll appreciate that. Of course, we're going to break this card down top to bottom, and we're going to kick off right with the main event. That is Hamza Chimaev and Nate Diaz. Hamza Chimaev, we all know, is Pete's guy. He's 9,600 overall DK, 6,600 for Nate Diaz. FanDuel salaries are not out yet, so we'll be primarily focusing here on the DraftKings side of the equation. If the FanDuel salaries come out during the show, we'll break those ones down for you here. Pete, look, there's a reason Hamza Chimaev is a favorite, but when you go over to Stokastic.com and you look at that top fire tool, if you're a premium member, winning percentage odds, Hamza Chimaev 93%, and of course that is based on the betting odds here.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And, I'll never say never. And I think that anybody on any given night can upset any fighter, pound for pound fighter, upcoming prospect, especially when you have the career that Nate Diaz has had. Now, styles make fights, and I don't particularly like this style for Nate Diaz at all. His best chance is to lure Hamza Chimaev into a brawl, take him out of his element, get inside that headspace, and try to make him fight as emotional as possible, pretty similar to how he did against Gilbert Burns, because that is not the Hamza Chimaev, in my opinion, that's going to become champion. Hamza Chimaev blending takedowns, ground and pound, in addition to strong striking, is how he's going to, claim the belt and hopefully hold on to the belt. But going out there and just, with reckless abandon, just trading on the feet opens you up for counters. In addition, it taxes you. And we saw his gas tank taxed extremely. And, in a 5-round atmosphere, I think it's interesting because Nate Diaz's price is 6,600. So if a late stoppage happens, which is particularly my only way of seeing Nate Diaz pull out this fight as, victoriously, I think that 6,600, he just has to do enough or even just have some volume on the feet. But from takedowns to striking to knockdown potential to finishing potential to absolute domination, 9,600, I still think I'm going to get to him plenty. And it's not going to be a lock because of Hamzat's emotional, just nature, because in the 3-round fight against Gilbert Burns, he scored 100 points. We need a lot of points at this 9,600 price tag. So interested to see if you agree with me. I'm going to have plenty of Hamza Chimaev, but I do think that it's okay to pivot to somebody else as well.
It comes to a roster construction situation. I will tell you this: I'll be under the field. We'll project on ownership. I don't want to get that high on Hamza Chimaev just because I really feel like that is going to limit what I can do in terms of the rest of my lineup. We have somewhere at 9,600. My biggest question mark with Hamza Chimaev is what happens if this fight hits a 4th or 5th round? And also, what type of fight pace does he come out with? Do we see him come out with that intense fight pace that he had against Gilbert Burns? Or do we see more of a labored, hey, I got to make sure that I'm preparing myself just in case this thing does go 4 or 5 minutes, 4 or 5 rounds in this one. Look, Hamza Chimaev, I think we all know, is the pick here. He's the guy that I think he can win this fight wherever it goes. Nate Diaz obviously would be live off his back. But to me, it's a play of Hamza Chimaev. And by the way, I appreciate Perry letting me know FanDuel salaries are out. Hamza Chimaev, $23, $11 for Nate Diaz. In terms of the salaries, a little easier to get over to Hamza Chimaev over on the FanDuel side of the equation. It's still a big price tag. But like, to me, you can get over there, especially now. I will say this, like, on the FanDuel side of the equation, I want to see Hamza be able to go for takedowns in that matchup to maximize that scorecard. If it's just on the feet, one way I do see this fight potentially ending maybe a doctor stoppage via cuts on Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
So that would be a concern of, if Hamza Chimaev doesn't score knockdowns, doesn't score takedowns, may not be an ideal score over on the FanDuel side of the equation, or even on the DraftKings side of the equation.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not a worry, but that's what can happen, and making him not optimal. I do think at $23 on FanDuel, we've seen a lot worse salaries over there. I think that seems like a no-brainer. He's a 5-round atmosphere, tons of potential in various ways. I still think that $23 is too cheap, and the most likely outcome is a Hamza Chimaev TKO KO. So I think that favors into the FanDuel scoring a little bit. We didn't see Hamza go to the takedown well against Gilbert Burns because of his dangerous jiu-jitsu. Nate Diaz is very dangerous too. So Hamza needs to be very, very careful, not be lackadaisical in any transition. Don't leave his neck exposed to get guillotined, and respect Nate Diaz. Like, go in there and try to have a more calculated performance, and he should have zero issues as long as he does so. So we'll have to see how it goes, but I'm definitely going to be having massive Hamza Chimaev ownership.
Of course, appreciate everyone tuning in here on a Thursday afternoon. Be sure to throw a like right here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. Hit that notification bell, because we got you covered for everything DFS wise. And of course, if you're not a premium member over Stokastic.com, we'll get a little peek what's behind today's paywall. Today's free premium day and tools, our MLB player projections, and our all new NFL lineup generator, which is free for week 1 only. You can find that link in the video description below. Of course, if you're playing MLB DFS, of course, we have our offer for MLB night slates on DraftKings is 100% free for the remainder of the season, which gives you a great chance to give our tools a shot before purchasing. Just click the DK night link below to check out tonight's tools and projections. Of course, we got a great free article right there on the main page of Stokastic.com about our NFL coverage. Isaiah did a great job with that. Click on that so you can find out all the details we have for the NFL season, which kicks off tonight. I mentioned I will not be here on Saturday because I'll be traveling to Dallas while Pete and Josh are doing the show here on Saturday. So be sure to check out them. You know what? You better watch out, Pete. If I might be on that airplane, we got Wi-Fi on the plane. I might start trolling you in the comments.
All right, bring it, Jason. It's all right. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to football tonight, this weekend, and then obviously some fights. So it's a decent card, but some names that I definitely have a ton of attention to.
Yeah, literally, if you saw my folder for, it just says week 1 Dallas. It's a pretty big folder here in the corner of my desk here as I'm getting ready to, so I'll be in Dallas this weekend. Looking forward to, I'll have to find a place. If I can't find a place that's showing the fights, see, just pop up on my phone. I am that guy that will sit at a bar. Like, literally, there's a bar at my house I go to. If they don't have the pay-per-view, I literally would just put it on my phone. And
That's
I'll watch
so crazy
from the bar.
It's so crazy to me that, like, Jason will go 2 places to watch fights. I am almost the complete opposite. I hate watching fights. Out in public. I like, if the fights are on, I'm cool with just like being on the couch or in the hotel room, just watching it on my phone. I feel like you always like to go out with the guys and watch the fights out in public. That's not me, man. It's not me.
No, I'm telling you, here's one thing is, as someone who's been in this reporting game for some time, MMA, I learn more about the MMA fan being at a bar than sitting in front of MMA Twitter. You really find out what fighters gravitate towards people.
Yeah, I remember, I forget who it was, but you're like, I don't know if you were at a Hooters or wherever you were one day, and you're like, nobody's paying attention to this fight at all. And it's, and like, it goes to show you the casual.
I know the fight you're talking about.
All right. What was it?
Holly Holm, Raquel Pennington.
Yes. Yep. I remember
it was a Connor card. It was a part of the pay-per-view, and literally no one in the bar is paying attention to the fight.
Yeah, the casual fan base versus the hardcore fan base, and the betting fan base. I would like to kind of put us into that hardcore category because obviously we got money riding on it. So we like to pay attention to every single fight, every single detail, and I think that betting in itself and DFS has really elevated the fight game and made more people interested in the sport. So extremely thankful.
Of course, Sam, I appreciate your super chat a little bit earlier. Appreciate you. Always appreciate those super chat. Great way to show your support for what me and Pete do here. Let's move on to the co-main event. It's a welterweight matchup between Ling and Tony Ferguson. Ling 9,000, 7,200 for Tony Ferguson over on DraftKings on the FanDuel side of the equation. $19 for Ling, $10 for Tony Ferguson. And I mean, the one thing about Tony Ferguson that I think does not get talked a lot heading into this matchup, Pete, is if you go back and you watch that first round, we all remember him getting front kick to the face. We all remember that photo, that highlight, but he was having a lot of success in that first round against Michael Chandler.
Yeah, he sure was. And, a lot of people only care about the result. But up until that result happened, it looked like Tony Ferguson was giving Chandler a ton of issues, and he's extremely dangerous, always has been. In the striking department, in addition to the submission grappling department as well. So he has multiple paths to victory. It's just in 2022, we have seen Tony Ferguson decline, and it's natural. Father Time is undefeated, especially when you are in a war against Justin Gaethje and beat pillar to post, and you take a ton of damage like that. I don't think that he's been the same since, truthfully. Now, the skills are there. And the skills could absolutely beat Li Jingliang, no problem at all. So at 7,200, I'm going to get to Tony Ferguson. From a likelihood standpoint, I do not like the fact that this is a fight outside his natural weight class. He has dabbled at 170 pounds in the past, and the Ultimate Fighter and all that. But largely most of his career was made at lightweight. So going up in weight after you just got knocked out in pretty bad fashion against Michael Chandler, against a very, very dangerous guy in Li Jingliang, it just doesn't seem like a smart matchup. And, as we talked about on Takedown City, I definitely think the UFC kind of dropped the ball. And I think Tony Ferguson, Nate Diaz should have been a matchup that they definitely targeted. I would have loved to see it. Both guys are in similar parts of their career, and it just would have been an absolute barn burner. But I'm going to be getting to Li Jingliang, truthfully, because I am picking him to win. And I think that in 2022, he has the skills to just be better than Tony Ferguson. Now, throughout Jingliang's career, he's been dropped, rocked, hurt, finished. And a submission finish is totally possible for Tony Ferguson. It's just, how does he get him to that point? He can cut him up on the feet with elbows. He can rock him. But I do think that Jingliang is accustomed to the power at 170 pounds. And I think that power difference is going to be why I'm picking Li Jingliang here at 9,000. The most probable outcome is Jingliang winning here. But as far as underdogs, name value, I think Tony Ferguson is just going to have a ton of ownership in general because of his name value.
Yeah, and Sam, appreciate your super chat. He says, am I crazy? I really think Tony was looking great against Chandler. Even with him going up to 170, I think he wins. He's at an actual camp now, which that was part of, I watched the media scrum of Tony Ferguson, and there's some parts that I can't take him serious.
Yep.
Like when he calls himself the best of all time.
Yeah, come on, guy.
I mean, come on. Clearly he can't get past the Khabib's situation. But the thing that, and we talked about this, and people are going to go check out Takedown City here over the Odd Shopper YouTube channel, is the fact of he is training at Jackson Wink. And so here's part of the conversation we had on Takedown City. Is I said to Pete, I go, hey, what do you think about Tony Ferguson essentially saying he really hasn't sparred the last 5 years? Yeah,
I hate it, man. I absolutely hate it. And I think I said that's like a swimmer who doesn't swim. I mean, like you gotta train. You can't just hit a bag. You have to go out there and get rounds in, and timing is everything in this. And that's maybe why he's looked off in some performances. I did think that he looked pretty damn good against Michael Chandler early, but it's kind of just like, styles make fights. And I do think that there were better matches for Tony Ferguson. This is a dangerous one. And Li Jingliang has some power. I mean, he's knocked out Santiago Ponzinibbio, Muslim Salikov, like Zaleski Dos Santos. So like he's knocking out really, really talented guys. He just has to be careful himself. And I think that he recognizes he's facing a dangerous legend. I will never cross off a legend, just like I'll have some Nate Diaz exposure, and I'm the biggest Hamza Chimaev guy out there. I will have some Tony Ferguson exposure. If you feel in your gut that Tony Ferguson is going to pull off this upset, by all means, play him. I think that there are some better spots to target, especially from a betting standpoint. And this is a week where I'm not in love with a lot of underdogs, but in MMA DFS, we're kind of forced. Our hand is forced, and we have to get some exposure to some of these ugly pieces.
November 5th, 2016. The last time Tony Ferguson has a win against a fighter currently in the UFC. That's Rafael Dos Anjos. And the crazy stat is the fact that Tony Ferguson, only 2 of his UFC wins are against fighters who are currently in the UFC, with the other one being Edson Barboza. Just a crazy stat out there. Look, I think you do some sprinkles. I would rather, Pete, you always talk about this of, we want to get to underdogs in the main event and co-main event. I would rather get to Tony Ferguson than get to Nate Diaz.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do agree with you. I think the matchup against Hamza Chimaev is much worse than the matchup Tony Ferguson is in against Jing Liang. And, despite the change in weight class, I think Tony Ferguson's skills, as I said, are there. It's just a question mark about his durability. And for a long time, I never wanted to back a guy who has been knocked out. And, he's kind of turning around. He's getting a fight pretty soon. He's getting a fight before Michael Chandler, who knocked him out. Think about how weird that is against a knockout guy. So, I'm a little nervous for Tony Ferguson in this matchup.
Of course, football season has finally arrived, which means that you'll be able to take advantage of one of our best deals of the year. Click the link in the video description below or use the promo code SCRAMBLE at checkout to get 7 days of Stokastic Plus NFL for only $7. That's promo code SCRAMBLE at checkout to get 7 days of Stokastic Plus NFL for only $7. That's 70% off the original price. This includes full access to all the great premium content and tools we have over at Stokastic.com for NFL DFS, which includes our all-new lineup generator, player projections, ownership projections, top stacks, our boom bust tool, and so much more. Of course, note Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on, is not included in our base packages, but can easily be added at checkout. Highly recommend you doing that. This offer is valid through Tuesday, September 13th. Once again, that's promo code SCRAMBLE to get 7 days of Stokastic Plus NFL for only $7. Of course, we got you covered for NFL coverage here at Stokastic.com. Of course, we got shows all throughout today to get you ready for opening night of the NFL season. Next up, we've got a catchweight matchup of 180 pounds. It is Kevin Holland and Daniel Rodriguez. Kevin Holland is 8,700. 5,700 for Daniel Rodriguez. Look over the FanDuel side of the equation. $18 for Kevin Holland, $12 for Daniel Rodriguez. The fact of the reason this is at 180 pounds is because, Daniel Rodriguez wanted 180 pounds. Kevin Holland wanted to be 170 pounds, and he said a weird thing yesterday. Well, he said multiple weird things, not just one. I won't repeat one of the if you've not seen his media scrum, just wait for a line where he asked what happened to Sean Strickland's finger, and he had a comment about it.
Okay.
It's a little not safe for work, let's just say. But yeah. But Kevin Holland said, he goes, "Hey, I like cutting weight." Well, you're the odd one. I don't know how many fighters truly say I love cutting weight.
Yeah,
but he did mention that.
Yeah, he's embracing the entire thing of the fight week, I guess. And this is an interesting matchup, and I actually think that Daniel Rodriguez is worth a flyer at 7,500. I'm interested in this matchup. I am favoring Kevin Holland at 8,700, and it's largely due to his striking skill set and his physical advantages as well. He has a reach advantage of 7 inches over Daniel Rodriguez. Taller fighter, has good volume. If you look at the stats, Daniel Rodriguez's volume looks like it's nearly double of Kevin Holland, but that's largely due to, just overblown early finishes. So I actually think that the reach disadvantage that Daniel Rodriguez has is going to limit his output. And, where in some matchups he didn't care what was coming back towards him, he's going to have to be extremely selective because I think Kevin Holland could touch that chin, put him out, knock him out pretty easily. We have seen Daniel Rodriguez hurt multiple times, and the Dwight Grant fight is one that really sticks out in my mind. Back in August of 2020, some time ago, Dwight Grant, guy who has massive power, not the most skilled guy, touched Daniel Rodriguez up early, and it looked like he was, en route to getting finished in that fight. And I think that if Kevin Holland lands some strikes, he has versatile striking where he can mix things up in all kickboxing areas. So he's not just going to go out there and box him. He's going to mix in some tricky kicks, some good elbows, some good knees. We've seen both of these guys, their durabilities kind of, tested. And I think this is going to be a banger. It's going to be a kickboxing fight. Fighters that typically have an advantage over Kevin Holland are strong wrestlers. He's a decent grappler, pretty good grappler, but it's the strong wrestlers that can, control him on the mat for, periods of time, threaten him with submissions and just kind of, stall him out a little bit. I think Daniel Rodriguez is skilled in the jiu-jitsu department, but I think it's to a point where Kevin Holland can kind of negate that style. So I'm expecting a kickboxing fight, and I'm picking Kevin Holland to win here at 8,700. You're not going to hear me talk you off of Daniel Rodriguez at 7,500 just because of the high volume. If he's able to, get in rhythm and land some combinations, but this is a week where I hate most of the underdogs, so I'm not going to fault you for going Rodriguez, but it's Kevin Holland for me. I think he knocks him out.
Tyler chiming in saying, "Can we get Pete versus Jake Paul or KSI?"
I love it.
We hear a crazy number I saw. KSI turned down a $10 million offer to do a podcast. Take that one. How good do you think the KSI business is? He's turned down $10 million.
Damn, I don't even know who the hell KSI is, but
if y'all think like Jake and Logan Paul are big here, like KSI is like king of the entire UK. It is dumb the amount of money they have.
Well, I mean, when you have that much leverage, you can pick and choose whatever you want to do, and money becomes a non-factor. So I guess that's chump change, but hey, I want some chump change. So by all means, I would love that.
All I know is my email is filled from the PR agency from Jake Paul about all the things they're doing over the next couple of days with Jake and Anderson. Of course, they're going to be fighting there October 29th. They're in Phoenix, Arizona. In terms of Kevin Holland and Daniel Rodriguez, concerned to have with Daniel Rodriguez, first fight in nearly just over a year, fought August 28th, 2021. That was a decision win against Kevin Lee. I want to say it was a hand injury for the reason he's been out that amount of time. But overall, I do like Kevin Holland. I don't know if this is an optimal fight.
Yeah, if it goes 15, I don't think it is. But it's going to be an intense kickboxing fight. And when they're throwing with bad intentions, it just takes one shot to really, land a knockdown, high volume striking affair. But we need a finish in this fight. So it all comes down to how likely you think a finish happens.
Next up, we've got a female bantamweight matchup between Irene Aldana and Macy Chiasson. 8,800 for Irene Aldana, 7,400 for Macy Chiasson over on the DraftKings side of the equation. On FanDuel, $17 for Irene Aldana, $13 for Macy Chiasson. Of course, Macy returning to 135 pounds. She's had, I would say, a majority of her fights in the UFC at 145 pounds. Last fight at bantamweight was back in 2021. A decision win there against Marion Renault. Irene Aldana, this is her first fight since July of last year, which was a TKO win against Yuna Kunaskayev. She did miss weight in that matchup. She's 3-1 in her last 4 fights, but she's been an active fighter, Pete, which is always kind of a concern for me. She hasn't fought twice a year since 2019. She only fought once in 2021, which was July. Prior to that was October of 2020. But I do like this spot here for Irene Aldana.
Yeah, I really like Irene Aldana from a winning the fight standpoint. I think that she's going to have the Macy Chiasson problem solved. And I think that she's going to be the better striker of the two. Macy's typically the better striker in most matchups, but I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think that Irene Aldana is going to capitalize on a lot of the mistakes that Macy has. And despite having a slight reach disadvantage, Irene Aldana should be able to go out there and land good boxing combinations, stuff some takedowns, because, the versatility of Macy Chiasson's game of blending her striking with her takedown attempts is what makes her extremely dangerous and makes her a pretty decent minute winner. She's able to go out there and win minutes. And in the eyes of the judges, she's able to push a pace. I think the 84% takedown defense of Irene Aldana is going to be put to the test. And I think she's going to pass the test. I really do. I think it's going to be a competitive fight. But it's one where I don't think that this fight's going to be optimal. If the underdog had a better shot to win, sure, then, you know, basically a decision win can be enough if it's a low scoring slate. I like Macy Chiasson in her previous bout against Norma Dumont as an underdog. And I do not like her here against Irene Aldana. 8,800 for Aldana, 7,400 for Chiasson. This might be the fight that I'm fading the most, if I'm being honest. I would much rather, and we'll see if you agree with me, I would much rather go from 8,800 Aldana to 8,700 Kevin Holland. You can still make an argument that the Holland Rodriguez fight isn't optimal either, but I think it's much more likely than Aldana Chiasson.
The thing that I would tell you, and this is using our tools and data over at Stokastic.com, is looking at that ownership. And right now we're projecting Irene Aldana at 16% ownership. Just a comparison, we're projecting Kevin Holland here on Thursday at 31%. So Irene Aldana, to me, like, do I love the price tag of 800 in terms of that ceiling of can she get over 100 points? I don't love it. But to me, it would be more of taking a shot on the ownership aspect of this.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't hate how like Sam Pierce in chat is saying Macy wins via takedown city. It's definitely possible, and that is her best path to victory. She landed 6 of 12 takedowns against Norma Dumont, and I think that style kind of threw Norma Dumont off. And we have seen Irene Aldana not struggle in the takedown department, but if there's one matchup that you can look at, you can say, well, Holly Holm took her down 5 of 14 times and ended up beating her in that fight via decision. So, you know, maybe Macy can do the same thing. I think that we're not taking into account development. And I think that Irene Aldana's, you know, clearly going to be working on that extensively. And I just think that she's going to have the tools to negate Macy Chiasson's attempts. She might get her down a couple times, but I'm expecting an Aldana performance.
Opening fight of the pay-per-view is a light heavyweight match between Johnny Walker and Ian Kutilaba. Johnny Walker, 7,600, 8,600 for Ian Kutilaba, $18 for Kutilaba on FanDuel, $12 for Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker yesterday talked about the fact that he is no longer using CBD and THC, talked about how it made him paranoid and how he would show up late to practice. Pete, I've heard some excuses in this fight game. This is a new one, bro. Like, this is a new one.
Yeah, I think we're grasping for straws here, man. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know about this. This might be the strangest thing ever, but I also think it kind of comes with the territory. I think Johnny Walker's a pretty strange guy. And in addition to being strange, he's been knocked out a ton throughout his career. So he's taken a lot of damage upstairs. And, you know, he, as far as offensively, has all the skills to beat Ian Kutilaba. Totally. Has all the skills to beat majority of the people within the division. It's just he can't really handle what's coming back his way. And I think that his chin is something that we cannot trust at this point. When you see people get knocked out, okay. But when you see the way this man has been knocked out, it is some of the strangest, most devastating ways that the body getting hit on the temple, where you see that body just doing involuntary things. It's very concerning for me, to be honest. So, Johnny Walker is going to be a pretty popular underdog at 7,600 because of the first round upside. If he wins, I think he wins early. As far as like breaking down the fight, I think Ian Kutilaba needs to close space and close distance pretty early, because at range, he's going to be at a 7-inch reach disadvantage. So Johnny Walker can stay on the outside and pick Kutilaba apart. It's up to Kutilaba to close that space, throw a nice overhand en route to, you know, getting his takedowns, because that's what makes him so special within the division. I view this fight as an optimal fight, Jason. I view this fight as an optimal fight. I don't think it's going to go the distance. If it somehow does, I'm expecting it to be a crazy, crazy fight where we're still getting tons of fantasy points, because if it goes the distance, most likely Kutilaba is taking him to takedown city, ragdolling him en route to tons of control time and significant strikes and possibly a TKO as well. So Kutilaba is going to be the pick for me at 8,600. He's been finished in the past via submissions and via, you know, KO, TKO. But as far as like who I trust slightly more, I'm going to trust Kutilaba, and I'm also going to trust his camp a little bit more than Johnny Walker in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, you think about when Johnny Walker entered the UFC, how you viewed him at that point, and how you view him here. just he's a tough guy to trust here. But yeah, this could be a fight that you maybe do look at a priority fight. But I think if the finish comes, it is more coming on the Ian Kutilaba side of the equation. Now, the featured prelim matchup will be a matchup between Hakeem Dalladu and Julian Erosa. Hakeem Dalladu 8,900, 7,300 for Juicy J, and then $19 and $11 respectively over on the FanDuel side of the equation. While Hakeem Dalladu is known for a guy going the distance, he's gone to a decision in 6 of his last 7 fights. This is talk about when you've got an opponent who is going to bring that forward pacing style. I feel like it's going to bring a style into Hakeem Dalladu that we've not necessarily seen inside UFC competition. I think this is a fight that's going to get a stoppage at some point, just because of how Julian fights.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, and I think Julian Erosa is going to force his hand. Just the forward pressure. Not every fighter can fight backing up, and sometimes if you put a fighter on their back foot, they are a shell of themselves. I think Hakeem Dalladu has some pretty good footwork, and he's able to, still tailor his game around his strengths. And I actually think that he can capitalize on some of the Julian Erosa combinations and some of the mistakes, right? Like Julian Erosa crashing forward a lot, crashing distance. He's good offensively, defensively, he's okay, but he gets hit. And when he gets hit, he gets hurt. So that seems like, that's obvious. And that's, when anybody gets hit, they get hurt. They get hurt, but no, not necessarily. I just don't like the durability surrounding Julian Erosa. It's kind of inconsistent. There was a large time where we didn't think that he would be a part of the UFC for this little stretch. And man, he's 4-1 in his last 5, which is kind of crazy considering how much he was finished in his early career, especially his early UFC career. So man, props to Julian Erosa. I think he's going to be a pretty popular underdog, but I'm with you, man. I think Hakeem Dalladu, even in the decision, we saw it against Michael Trezano. He put up 102 fantasy points. He was priced at 8,500 for that fight. And, he threw 214 significant strikes, landed 140. I can see a similar performance, but I actually think that Hakeem Dalladu finds a knockout here against Julian Erosa. I really do. I like the Muay Thai skill set of Hakeem Dalladu. I'm not going to fault you if you get to Julian Erosa. I'm going to get to him as well because it's just an ugly week for underdogs, but it's Hakeem Dalladu. I think he knocks him out. And at 8,900, he should be one of the guys that could be lost in the shuffle based on his career of going the distance.
Well, I think when you're looking at those fighters and talking from a DraftKings perspective here of that under 7,400 and below, and you're looking at the ceiling of those fighters, Juicy J's got to be one of those guys you look at and say, hey, if he's going to go out there and win, it's likely going to be a finish. And that, that to me is where, if I'm over in Fantasy Cruncher and I'm creating a underdog group, like Juicy J's in that group.
Yeah, I mean, he's in the group. He definitely is. And we saw him pick up a very nice knockout over Nate Landwehr, who has looked pretty damn good, right? Picking up a pretty crazy performance over David Onama. So you'll see this from time to time where like wins age well. And even losses sometimes age well. And you're like, oh, well, that wasn't that bad. Where in hindsight, you're like, at the time, I thought it was a bad loss. But, I mean, props to Juicy J. He's clearly turned the corner within his career. And he has all the offensive skills to pull this off. I think that Hakeem's just a little bit better.
No, I'm with you there. Of course, this is a strategy show. We're getting you ready for UFC 279, and we are sponsored by Prize Picks. They've got their daily prop-based contest, and when you sign up over at prizepicks.com, use the promo code AWESOMO as they had instant first match deposit of up to $100. 5-player lineups can hit you up to 10 times your entry fee. And of course, use your knowledge on multiple sports with cross sports entries. Reason you got to bring this one up is they got a free square going on over there this week right now for week 1 of the NFL season on Tom Brady's 1.5 passing yard. So it's a free square over there. You got to take advantage of it over there at prizepicks.com. And looking over on the MMA side of the equation, Pete, I got 2 props I like over on the takedown side and 2 I like on the fight time props over there. Let's start takedowns first off. I'll start off with the co-main event, Lee Ling. That number is 1.5. I like the under there.
I think that it's a smart play just because if Jing Liang goes to the takedown well, he's got to be very, very careful. He can land takedowns, but he's got to be very careful of the jiu-jitsu. So from a game plan standpoint, it would just make sense to test the chin of Tony Ferguson. So I think I'm with you on that one.
Now, I like a over on the takedown props, and that's Hamza Chimaev 1.5. I'm just going to say this. You got to hit this prop now, because I don't think this 1.5 number is going to be there very long, because I think Nate Diaz can get up at least once. I mean, so you're telling me Hamza Chimaev just got to land 2 takedowns? I love that number. That might be my favorite prop over Prize Picks right now.
I like it too, but, again, it comes down to the emotional decisions of Hamza Chimaev. Like, he was lured into a brawl against Gilbert Burns. I think that the 2 takedowns should absolutely come. I'm going to say over, but man, I just hope Hamza really fights the correct fight.
I also like 2 overs on the fight times. One is Darion Weeks at 10 minutes. I think that fight's going to go 15 minutes. We'll talk about that one a little bit. And I like the Kevin Holland 12.5 over. I think that fight's going to go at least, hit the 3rd round. I think if a stoppage comes, it's going to be late in the 3rd round.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the fight times right now, and honestly, the Jake Collier over 12.5 minutes, I can see them just enjoying it out there. Chris Barnett really likes to strike. So does Jake Collier. As long as it stays on the feet, we could see a heavyweight decision. So I think I'll take the over on the Collier fight time.
Yeah, but of course, you got to check out everything got going on over at Prize Picks. Sign up right now by heading to prizepicks.com. Use that promo code AWESEMO for instant first match deposit of up to $100, or you can download their app in the App Store. And of course, play over there at prizepicks.com. Appreciate their support here of the Stokastic.com MMA strategy show. Let's move on to our second catchweight bout of this fight card. This is a catchweight of 220 pounds. Jolton Almeida, a huge betting favorite in this one, taking on Anton here. 9,500 here for Jolton on DK. Anton 6,700, $22 and $9 respectively. Of course, Jolton Almeida 2-0 in the UFC, both first round victories. This will be the UFC debut for Anton, of course, fighting on the Contender Series, which he did go the takedown route in that one. One of the notes I have written on Anton is defensive liabilities that I see with him. I expect that he's going to try to take this one to the ground. I somewhat concerned about whether or not he has the cardio here. I mean, look, Jolton Almeida is ultimately going to be a 205 pounder. He's working his way down there. But this is, I think it's very, I mean, look, it's a high price point you got to pay. Maybe you look at that ownership of Hamza Chimaev and say, hey, let me spend $100 less and go to Jolton Almeida.
I'll tell you what, I'm always looking to target underdogs for some of the fighters that are, for some prospects, just because I think that a lesson is looming for a lot of them, because, MMA is a very, very hard game to remain undefeated. And it just takes one correct game plan to throw you off, or an injury, or your conditioning to be up to par. I don't think that Anton is the guy, but I think that he represents a skill set that could possibly pose a problem for Jolton Almeida. Now, Jolton Almeida, phenomenal jiu-jitsu, can submit almost anybody. In addition to his jiu-jitsu, he has, devastating power, but vicious ground and pound. So he can kind of select what he wants, whether he wants to pound you out or submit you. What I will say is, whenever you have big guys like this, noticing a fighter that can push such a high work rate is impressive. Attempting 16 takedown attempts on the Contender Series, Anton went 11 of 16 with 11 minutes and 49 seconds of control time. That pace can break a lot of people. Even if he's not successful, if he's unsuccessful with most of his attempts, it's still taxing on his opponent. So I'm going to sprinkle Anton. I don't expect him to win, but I think that even in a loss, we could look at a guy that maybe gets you some more points than a Nate Diaz or even a Tony Ferguson, just because of the takedown potential. Now, I think that Jolton Almeida is probably going to get a finish within, inside the distance, and it's the most likely outcome. But Anton does train with Hamza Chimaev at All Stars, so I think that there is some value. I don't even know if value is the word. I think he's worth a sprinkle in some of the lineups. So I'm going to look at ownership. It's probably going to be single digit ownership, and I'll probably simply double it just because. And I always say that a lesson is looming for a lot of these prospects. I don't think that Anton is the guy, but his skill set could surprise all of us.
Even if you double his ownership, Pete, you're still not hitting 10%.
Yeah. See what I mean? So it's like, it's worth it.
Yeah. We're projecting at 4%.
Yeah. I mean, I think Jolton Almeida is going to be so dominant out there, but I'm just saying 11 of 16 takedown attempts, even if he looks gassed, can gas out his adversary as well. So we shall see.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it just comes down to a roster construction situation. Price tag at 9,500. Let's move over next up to a middleweight matchup. You got Pickett and Denise. Pickett 8,300, Denise 7,900. They're both $15 over there on FanDuel. Jamie Pickett is a guy I feel like I just can't get right in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the fights that I'm on him, he can't get the win, and then the fights that I'm against him, he goes out there and just makes me look dumb.
Yeah, same. I mean, we're in the same boat because I think Jamie Pickett has some skills. Decent striker, decent grappler. I think that he's pretty mediocre everywhere, but he's seemed to be a little bit smarter, especially against Joseph Holmes and even Laureano Staropoli. So like Staropoli in that fight, he scored 65. And Joseph Holmes, I thought that as dominant as he was in certain positions, he could have got him out of there. Still only scored 66. So do I expect Jamie Pickett to finish Dennis Tululin? Well, Dennis Tululin usually struggles in the takedown department. And if you can work towards, getting him out of there via submission, I actually don't foresee that happening. So if Pickett wins, I don't even know if he's going to be optimal in a decision. I actually think that Dennis Tululin is going to be my pick. I think I'm picking Dennis Tululin. He was hurting Aliasheb Hizriev on the feet, looking pretty good. I think this is a pretty low level fight, if I'm being honest, for the middleweight division, but you're going to give me a discount in Tululin, who I think has the higher finish upside, and it's a salary play and it's an ugly week for underdogs. I'm hurting to find somebody. So I'm sure I'll have plenty of Dennis Tululin. I'm going to pick him to win here. And it's a fight I don't really like, but I have to find somebody to back. So I'm going to go with Tululin.
Next up, we've got a heavyweight matchup. You got Jake Collier taking on Chris Barnett. Jake Collier, 9,100, 7,100 for Chris Barnett over on DK, 21-10 over there on the FanDuel side of the equation. Of course, Jake Collier has been a guy that's been going the distance here as a UFC heavyweight. 5 of his last 7 fights have gone the distance. And he's due, Pete. He's due because he alternates losses and wins in the UFC, and he's coming off a loss. So I guess I should lock in Jake Collier at this point, but I do concern about the ceiling here.
Yeah, I am concerned about the ceiling, the price point, 9,100. I was hoping he was like 8,500. That's kind of like the sweet spot where I was like, yeah, I can get to him because I do think that there is a path for him to pick up a finish over Chris Barnett. I think Collier can win this fight any way he chooses to. He can outpoint Chris Barnett in a fun kickboxing fight. Just be extremely aware of the kicks because Barnett has an extensive Taekwondo background. If he wants to change levels and take Barnett down, I actually think that is the easiest path to victory. And it's just Barnett's such a big guy. You don't want to be underneath those hips, especially if he times a sprawl correctly or if you just had a lackadaisical attempt. So 9,100, I'm going to get to Jake Collier. But in 2022, it's kind of crazy how Jake Collier is such a favorite. For if you look back on his early career. But I got to tell you, I actually think this guy's pretty damn good for the division. He has like this middleweight style at heavyweight, like good speed, good volume. Guys can't really, keep up with him. And I actually think that he's pretty well-rounded and skilled. So as far as Collier within the division, I like him going forward. For DFS, I like him. I will have exposure to him, but it's not like a smash play by any means.
I do wonder, Jake Collier goes takedown route in this one and searches for a submission.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I think the prop on that is what I say, plus 475 or something like that. I think it's pretty damn interesting. And he made Chase Sherman look like he didn't belong in the UFC, and I'm not really sure if he does belong in the UFC, but that was a dominant round 1 finish, 105 fantasy points. So that is what we need at least at 9,100.
Next up, we got a female matchup. Norma Dumont taking on Danielle Wolf. Norma Dumont, the big favorite in this one. 9,200 on DK, 7,000 for Wolf on DK over the FanDuel side of the equation, 20-10. Norma Dumont coming off a split decision loss against Macy Chiasson back in May that did snap a 3-fight winning streak for her. Her last 4 wins have come by a decision. This will be the second professional fight for Danielle Wolf. Of course, she made her pro debut on the Contender Series, got signed. That was back in 2020. She has not fought since then, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird story. It's a weird fight. I don't really understand it. Norma Dumont is definitely the better mixed martial artist. She picked up a win over Aspen Ladd, Felicia Spencer, Ashley Evans Smith. So while Danielle Wolf has been working on her MMA game, Norma Dumont has been competing at a very high level. She got taken out of there pretty quickly against Megan Anderson. But, outside of the Macy Chiasson latest fight, she's looked damn good. She's kind of like been a surprising story. She looks powerful. She's well-rounded. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, I believe. Just pretty good everywhere. Good hands. The issue would be the fight IQ, right? Like if she chooses to just stay on the feet and allow Danielle Wolf, who's a pretty accomplished boxer, to just piece her up at distance, that's not MMA. That's not what Dumont's. If I was in Dumont's corner, that's not what I would recommend. You know what I mean? She needs to make this into an ugly MMA fight where she can, put Danielle Wolf in some terrible positions. So it's a Norma Dumont play for me. And I just really don't like the salary at 9,200. It's there if it's a dominant win, but how likely is the dominant win? I think a win in the 90s and below is much more likely.
Of course, one of the things me and Pete would love to see on Saturday night, I want to see you go into the Stokastic Hall of Fame. Of course, you got to be rocking that Stokastic avatar on your DFS profile. And when you place in a top 3 contest of over 5,000 contested, tweet your win. So at Stokastic HOF, you'll win a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. Only one free month can be awarded per user per a calendar year. And we got to say kudos to JC taking down $1 million in the Mega Millionaire contest over there. Kudos to you with that lineup. Shane Bieber, going out there scoring 31 points for you. Even had someone with 2 zeros in his line, goes out there and wins $1 million. Kudos to you, bro, for going out there and doing that. That's crazy. The fact that he had 2 guys in his lineup with 0 points and still goes out there and wins $1 million. Kudos to you. Of course, he had that Dodger stack in there. Also, kudos to John taking down first place at LB contest, winning $1,000 there in the 12K Chin Music single entry. That's one of those single entries that I do love to get into there. Pedro taking down first place there, winning $500 in an MLB contest. Congratulations to you over there. Also, Josh taking down first place in a college football, or second place in a college football contest last week. And also Alex taking down over $19,000 playing in MLB, and Cedric taking down a contest over there on DraftKings as well. Of course, I always love seeing those winning screenshots, and be sure to send those to myself and Pete on Saturday following UFC 279. We got 3 more matchups to get through here. We got Haley Alatang, 8,400, taking on Chan Adliger, 7,800, 17-13 over there on the FanDuel side of the equation. As I was kind of doing some deep dive into this one, the crazy thing with Chad is he started his career 2-5.
Yeah.
And crazy, he's won 10 in a row since that matchup. He did win his UFC debut in February against Jesse Strader. Wasn't going well in the first 2 rounds. I think we can both talk about that. Alatang 3-1-1 in the UFC. His first 4 fights in the UFC went the distance. He is coming off a 47-second win against Kevin Kroom.
Yeah, I mean, I like this fight. And typically the lower weight classes, I like to sprinkle some underdogs. I will have some Chad and Helliger here. I think that he hits really, really hard. But I think an Achilles heel for him has always been his takedown defense. And, against Jesse Strader, it was not going well, as you mentioned. It looked like he was about to be losing this fight because he seemed to be behind. And then he landed 1 big shot, and then it was just a dominant finish. I think that Haley Alatang will be the better minute winner in this situation. So, he can compete on the feet. He throws really powerful punches as well. But it's his takedown prowess that should be the difference maker here. He's gone to takedowns in some of his fights, not as much as I would like, but he attempted 4 of 13, landed 4 of 13 against Ryan Benoit. and 3 of 7 against Dana Bakary. I think that Dana Bakary is a better fighter than Chad Anheliger. That's a little bit of MMA math. I don't really like backing things up with MMA math, but I just think that Haley Alatang is going to beat Chad Anheliger. With that being said, it should be competitive for as long as it lasts. If it does go 15 minutes, that tells me that Haley Alatang has been able to chain together multiple takedowns and avoid the big power. So I like him here at 8,400. In general, it's a fight that I actually can see sneaking into the optimal lineup.
Next up, we got a female matchup. Melissa Martinez making her UFC debut, taking on Elise Reed here. Melissa is 8,500, excuse me. Elise 7,700, and then $16 for Martinez over on FanDuel, 14 for Elise Reed as first MMA fight for Melissa Martinez since December of 2019. 5 or 6 wins have come via stoppage. Elise Reed 1-2 in the UFC, coming off a 3rd round loss against Sam Hughes. Look, if I'm looking at underdogs that I think have a higher probability of winning, I would put Elise Reed in that equation just because stylistically, this is a matchup that suits her abilities, where you're not going up against a fighter that we would expect to take it to the ground. But let's just note here, Pete, you got your blinders on because of the style of Melissa Martinez.
Yeah, I mean, knee-jerk reaction was picking Elise Reed to win against whoever this Melissa Martinez fighter was. And then I did some deep diving on Melissa Martinez, and she comes from the same background that I do, sport karate, and a ton of kickboxing fights as well. So it's like, all right, well, let me see if the fight film kind of backs up her accolades. And I have to tell you, she's really, really talented on the feet. And this is a fight that Elise Reed should be like licking her chops at, because it's the perfect stylistic matchup to go out there and showcase her skills, because Elise Reed on her back is a terrible, terrible MMA fighter. She needs to keep fights on the feet, look to outstrike her opponents. And, you want her in these matchups because this is going to be the most winnable fights out there. I actually still think that Melissa Martinez is going to have the edge, going to have the versatility, the dexterity of her kicks, just mixing things up and keeping Elise Reed guessing. I think the volume's going to play into Melissa Martinez's favor. But with that being said, inactivity, in addition to octagon jitters, kind of get to a lot of fighters. So Elise Reed will be a fighter that I will be a little bit more heavily exposed as an underdog. But as far as like picking the fight, I do have my blinders on for Melissa Martinez, and I actually think she's just going to outpoint her. I don't think this fight's going to be optimal. I have to tell you, I really don't. And I think it's going to be a 15-minute decision for either one of these ladies, but it's Melissa Martinez for me.
And then our first fight of the night will be the age 8,000 fight, as we got Darion Weeks taking on Johan Linace. Linace is the 8,000 fighter over on the FanDuel side of the equation. $16 for Weeks, $14 for Johan Linace. Darion Weeks 0-2 in the UFC, but against good competition. Brian Barberena and Ian Gary. And Johan Linace, who got off a good start against Gabe Green, but ended up losing a decision there. Majority of Johan Linace's fights do end via finish. This is one of those ones like I favor Darion Weeks just slightly.
Yeah,
but I don't know how much I really want to get there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that this fight's going to be interesting, and I'm going to be smashing it naturally because it's the 8,200, 8,000 fight. I can see Darion Weeks getting a late stoppage, potentially because of Johan Linace's questionable cardio, as evidenced in the Gabe Green fight. He looked damn good early. That power's something out of this world. So he just really needs to touch Darion Weeks, who's very, very hittable. But if Weeks is able to just chain together takedowns and tax the cardio system of Johan Linace, I really don't like what I saw on film. Now, there could always be development in the cardio, in the training, in the conditioning programs and whatnot, but I'm going to be picking Darion Weeks to win this over 15 minutes. But as far as like round one winners, I think that Johan Linace might be at the top of the list. Like that's his best path to victory. So I'm going to be smashing exposure to Johan Linace. But again, there's plenty of weeks where I really like the underdogs. This is not one of those weeks, buddy.
No. As I literally am highlighting who I'm going to pick for my straight up fight picks here, as we'll get into that right now. Not a lot of underdogs here. I'm highlighting, Pete.
Not at all. I don't like it at all, and usually that's not my type of style.
Yeah. So let's go down the picks here. Main events. I don't even think I have to say. I think we both have taken Chimaev.
Yep.
Co-main event, I'll take Ling.
Yep, Jing Liang for me.
Kevin Holland.
Holland.
Aldana.
Kutilaba.
Okay.
Oh, stop it. Are you really?
Julian's my guy, man.
Oh, man. Okay,
Julian's,
I'm going down.
Look, I've known Julian for all these years. This is a from
homer
the heart
pick.
This is the homer from the heart pick. Give me Juicy J.
Okay. All right. I'm going Dalladu.
Jolton Almeida. I'll go Pickett. Don't feel good.
I'm going to Lulin.
Collier. Dumont. Alatang. I'll go Elise Reed.
Okay. I'm going to go Melissa Martinez.
Darion Weeks.
I'm going to go Darion Weeks. That I hate that fight. It's going to ruin a lot of lineups. I know it.
Sam Pierce, appreciate it. He goes, thoughts on the lineup I'm working on. What should I change and with who? Chiason, Chimaev, Dalladu, Ferguson, Holland, and Denise.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't hate the lineup.
I don't either.
I'm not in love with Chasson because I don't know if she's going to have such takedown success. And I'm not in love with the Tony Ferguson call. But as far as GPP goes, I would probably play that lineup, to be honest. And I'd probably just make another one and figure out how I can get different. But punting for some low options is going to be pretty popular this week to pay up for Hamza Chimaev.
Ferguson, I wouldn't mind as a cash play. Because I could see where he could rack up 30, 40 points in a loss.
You like cash Nate Diaz or cash Tony Ferguson?
Tony.
I might say Nate Diaz, truthfully.
I think for in a cash situation, if you tell me that fight hits the fourth round, then it's Nate Diaz all day.
His price is so cheap, though. He's $6,600. That's $600 more dollars you have.
I feel like it's like, especially if like you're playing in head to heads or even double ups, I feel like Nate will be a very popular cash play. That people are just going to say, hey, you know what? Let me just take this. Then it gives you so much room and flexibility. That was probably what I would do. I mean, look, I can see in cash where maybe you just sit there and say, hey, I'm just going to stack that main event in cash just because of the price point there. Samuel, appreciate you in the super chat. He's got his usual questions here. Top two cash.
It's at the top, man. It's Chimaev and it's Almeida. I hate to do that to you, but it's the truth. Two of the safest guys out there, but also two of the most expensive guys. So that is the case, though.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Top two GPPs.
Let's do fights.
Kutilaba Walker's got to be one of them.
Yeah, that might be number one on my list, truthfully. Kevin Holland and Daniel Rodriguez might be up there on my list as number two.
Okay. Underdogs and MVPs. Underdogs, man, there's just not a love that I personally like there. I mean, you're just going to take some shots. I mean, like looking on the DK side of the situation, looking at 7,500 below, Arosa sticks out to me just because of if he wins, that ceiling's high.
Okay, I get it. And it's totally possible. He has good submission skills, good striking skills. I actually think I'd rather go to Macy Chasson over Julian Arosa, just my perspective, even though I am backing on Rene Aldana. Outside of Dennis Tululin, I'm probably going to be mixing and matching. And we might have a loser in the optimal lineup. I feel like this might be one of those weeks.
In terms of MVP, I mean, obviously the Chimaev ownership is going to be high up there. Almeida is going to be up there as well. I mean, outside of those two guys, maybe a sneaky MVP is Jake Collier.
Yeah, definitely sneaky. I think that might be getting a little too cute, though. I'll probably just go with the chalk of Chimaev. He's just too cheap for the contest.
Favorite inside the distance. We look at fights here. So to me, Kutilaba Walker would be my top one.
Agreed with that.
Number two, I'd probably throw Ling and Tony Ferguson as a number two.
I agree with that as well.
Top fades. GPPs, Martinez, Reed would be a fade for me. Dumont, Wolf will be another one.
I think Wolf is that wild card of the fight card that we really don't know. So as far as fade, I would probably say the Aldana and Macy Chasson fight will be a little bit light for my exposure.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like upsets, we kind of touched on that already.
Yep.
Leverage plays. I mentioned about Arena Aldana as a potential leverage play. The Pickett Denise fight, you're both under 20% ownership on both of those equations over there. Then outside of that, those are probably my big leverage plays at this point. We'll see how ownership changes.
Yeah, obviously Nate Diaz would be crazy leverage. Anton Turkalj would be a crazy leverage as well. But understand with a lot of leverage comes low probability too. So
his over under number on finishes 6.5. He's going with a safe number here.
I'm going to say under. I kind of like that number.
Oof. It's a good number. It's actually a really good number. I'll go over.
Okay.
That, by the way, he's asking that's your new gaming chair. That looks like the same gaming chair.
It's the same gaming chair, same broken gaming chair.
You gotta win one of those tournaments this week to take advantage of that one. But of course, we appreciate everyone tuning in here for the Stokastic.com DFS strategy show. Be sure to check out Pete and Josh on Saturday for Live Before Lock, as they'll be here to get you ready for everything for UFC 279. Of course, keep it locked here at Stokastic.com all day long today for NFL and also for MLB coverage. So appreciate you tuning in. That's going to wrap it up for us. Of course, be sure to smash that thumbs up, but leave a comment section below. And myself or Pete will definitely answer you in the comments. So hopefully everyone has a great day, and I'll talk to you next week. Pete will see you on Saturday for Live Before Lock. Have a good afternoon, everybody.